Good morning, friends. My name is Craig Cullinane, and I'm so glad that you have joined me from the third installment of my Awakening series. The first week we talked about awakening the sacred in our lives, and last week we explored awakening gratitude and how useful that can be. And today we're going to be talking about awakening pleasure. Awakening pleasure. Ooh. So let's dive in a little bit. But first, I'm going to invite everybody, if it feels good to you, to take a nice breath. Let yourself breathe and let yourself settle into the moment wherever you are. And then maybe take another breath and let this breath, in this breath, welcome pleasure in your inhale. See how pleasure is just as close as our breath. And we'll talk more about that in a minute. So, awakening pleasure. Why awaken pleasure? Well, first of all, again, I'm a fan of saying this. We're in a body on a planet hurtling through space, everyone. We find ourselves in consciousness in a body. And this body can give us so much pleasure. Touching our body, the skin of every part of our body can offer pleasure. That's amazing. We're built for pleasure. We are hardwired. And I would dare say that pleasure is our birthright. It is ours, and it lives and exists as a possibility in our body. And so why awaken pleasure? Why be curious about that? Why practice that? You know, there's a great tantric principle. Pleasure is healing. Pleasure is healing. That when I wake pleasure up in my body, or I welcome pleasure, if I feel pleasure, that somehow some healing energy or healing force is activated or stimulated or begins to move in me. And then in that way, there's value. And of course, you know, the sensual nature of what it means to be a human on earth, the pleasure of food, the pleasure of amazing smells, all of our senses activated, the pleasure of touch, pleasure of seeing something beautiful or hearing beautiful music. What I love about the idea of awakening pleasure is that it automatically asks us to slow down and to have an awareness of what's happening right now. I have to slow down enough and give attention to what sensations are happening in my body or what I'm hearing or what I'm seeing or smelling or feeling. And that's useful. That pleasure can be a way of coming home to our bodies, coming home to the way that we can feel good. And don't you want to feel good? I want to feel good. I want to walk in my life with my pleasure activated, that I can feel my body when it feels pleasure, that I can stop for a minute and listen to a beautiful song and let it stir my heart, that I can smell the flowers, that I can appreciate a gorgeous vista. I don't know what happens when we die. So a lot of people say they do. I don't know. And I would love to think that consciousness goes on. That would be awesome. And maybe this is it, y'all. And if it is, why don't I just slow it down enough and say, look, I'm going to love and appreciate and feel pleasure in my life as a practice, as an intention, right? Now, of course, this can be challenging because most of us come from cultures and religious backgrounds where pleasure and the body's pleasure is not only not welcome, it's actively suppressed as a control mechanism or for whatever reason. You know, I grew up from a culture of Irish Catholicism, and rather than body pleasure, really what it was about was shame and how shame shuts down pleasure. So that's really interesting, you know, and I definitely grew up feeling like A lot of shame around my body, a lot of shame around feeling pleasure that, certainly like any kind of self-pleasure or erotic pleasure, sexual pleasure with myself was wrong. And that it wasn't okay to spend time touching myself, loving myself, right? Since then, I've learned differently. So it's just useful to notice that. It's like, wow, pleasure now is being embraced more as a pathway to healing, as a pathway to activating our aliveness, awakening pleasure possibly makes life more juicy, more worth living. And that's an experiment to check out for yourself, right? I think that one of the real problems in the world now, there's so many, right? This maelstrom of issues that we're in, is how touch starved we are. Some people get enough touch. That's great. Get more. Most of us don't. And there's all of these studies that talk about the importance of hugs, the importance of touch, the importance, the healing nature of sex, of erotic touch. Being touched, in a loving way is so healing. And as the human animal, we need that. It's not, oh, it would be nice if. It's like a need that we have. And when we don't get it chronically, it has an impact. Pleasure helps us settle our nervous system. It helps us release anxiety. It can spark happy hormones to counter periods of depression or feelings of isolation. Right? So there's all these wonderful benefits to awakening pleasure. And I ask you to ask yourself, what's my relationship with pleasure? What do I experience in my life as pleasurable? Where do I block pleasure, or where do I just simply not make space for it? Because I'm not in the habit. I'm not intentionally creating time to welcome pleasure. Okay. So let's take a breath. So I want to offer some ideas. And one is, I'm really cooking with this one. I really love it. And it's really simple, and yet I think it's very profound and powerful. And I call it the pleasure breath. So we breathe all the time, obviously. We're breathing all the time. And our breath is a great friend. And I'm going to talk more about that later too. But we can weave and activate and awaken pleasure in our breath with intention. Okay. So I'm going to invite you now in a little practice with me wherever you are. You can do this wherever you are. If you're listening in the car, you can do it. You can do it at work, whatever's happening for you. Go ahead and take a nice deep breath, slow breath. Fill your lungs. Feel the expansion of your lungs. And let it go. And then do that again. Again, just give yourself the gift of a nice, slow, long breath. And let it go. Beautiful. Let your belly soften. And now, on your next inhale, I want you to welcome pleasure. I want you to take a breath that feels really enjoyable to you, like a really enjoyable breath. So let's all do that together. Just start to breathe. Breathe in your nose or in your mouth. Fill your lungs. And really welcome the feeling of pleasure in your breath. That feels so good. Do that again. Take a nice slow breath and really welcome pleasure and the enjoyment of a beautiful, enjoyable breath. Lovely. So just notice what that feels like. You can be intentional about weaving pleasure and enjoyment into your breath. For me, I noticed that I feel like this feeling of expansion in my heart space. I even smile a little bit, and just that smile sparks happy endorphins in our bodies. And I feel when I do a breath like that, and so everybody breathe with me. Let it be pleasurable. I just want to, on the exhale, make a sound like like that sound of pleasure. Right? And just doing it, I smile. Just doing it, I feel better. Right? I don't have to go somewhere. I don't have to take a pill. I don't have to whatever. It's just right here. It's just my breath. Right? So I want you to try it again a couple times, and I want you to just exaggerate it, like make it big and silly, right? I mean, if that works for you. So again, letting your belly go, and you're going to inhale, and you're going to just breathe in the most pleasurable inhale that feels good, that you enjoy, and on the exhale, you're going to go So do it with me. So we're breathing in, smiling, expanding with the pleasurable inhale, feeling the pleasure. Let's do that again. Breathing in, expanding, letting it be a pleasurable, enjoyable inhale, letting yourself smile with it, expanding. And just notice how that feels. Notice the activation, the awakening of pleasure in your body and your breath. Notice how you feel in your heart. Beautiful. So I want to offer that to you, this idea that at any moment you can breathe in pleasure. Pleasure is in your body now. It's available for you. It's your birthright. All you got to do is breathe it in and feel it and let it be in your body. And then it's with you wherever you are. You can be jogging, you can be at work, you can be anywhere. And if you remember, you can slow down enough to take a couple breaths that feel pleasurable. It's the beginning of an awakening in your experience. It's the beginning of activating your intentional relationship with pleasure. And pleasure is healing. It has all these wonderful benefits for our lives. We feel better. We treat each other better. We treat the earth better. There's this great quote. I'm not sure if it's exactly what the quote is exactly, but the gist of it is, when we feel pleasure in our body, the whole universe feels pleasure through us. So in a way, it's kind of like service. I'm making pleasure available for the whole universe when I feel it in myself. Fun to experiment with that. I'm also going to take it a step further and say, look, what it would be like for you just to offer touch to your own body. Right? Like putting your hands on your body like you're touching something sacred, breathing, and just giving yourself a moment to rub your belly, rub your chest. Kind of, you know what I mean? If there's not someone there to do it for us, if there's not a lot of hugs, like I can awaken pleasure in my body by just touching myself in a way that feels really pleasurable. This can be, just activating your skin with pleasure, breathing into it can feel so nice. Letting yourself feel your own touch is such a gift. It's so healing to do that, so good for you. And you can even take it into your erotic pleasure, like what's your relationship with your self-pleasure around your erotic life? I think few of us really have very habits around awakening erotic pleasure with intention that's very skillful. So I'm gonna just, put a bee in your bonnet. What if you decided to spend 30 minutes, 20 minutes, go to your room, close the door, put some music on, take your clothes off, get in bed, and just feel your body in any way that feels good to you. Raise energy, do some breathing. In our busy lives, it's like, who has time for that, right? But there's such a benefit to slowing down enough to activate pleasure and awaken pleasure in your body and in your life. Please share a pleasurable breath with me. Thank you for being with me. And next week, the topic is awakening the breath, our great friend, the breath. So I hope you join me. And I hope you have a really beautiful day. Take that pleasure breath into your life and experiment with it. See how it goes. If you have any comments, I'd love to hear it. Thank you.